Hi, so today I'm going to be talking about how to draw characters in perspective. Hi, my name is Luis Escobar. I'm a storyboard artist on the Simpsons television show. I've been working on the show for over 25 years now, and I'm here to empower you. So I got a question about, the person asked me to make a video talking about drawing characters in perspective. So this is going to be different than some of the other videos that I've done that have to do with perspective. So I have made a video of how to draw characters foreshortened. So if you're looking for that, then there's a link to another video where I talk about drawing characters in foreshortened. From your imagination, how to draw characters foreshortened. And there's another video that I've done about drawing in perspective in general, like in an environment. If you're drawing an environment, you're drawing a house, and you're trying to work out the perspective and all that stuff. And the building and how to make it all work. I have a video of that, and some of what I'm going to be talking about in this video, there's a little bit of that the information in this video and that video, but this is going to be a little bit more honed in. So I'm going to provide a link to that video in the description of this video. So today I'm going to be just drawing characters in perspective, in a way that so that you can just kind of have a draw an illustration, a picture, say, and so let's get started, and then it's easier for me to show you than to just talk about what I'm going to do. Okay, so let's so this is the kind of thing that I tend to do in my comics all the time. If you look at any video of the comic drawing process that I have, any pencil, from thumbnail to pencil, you will see me do these things. And I even talk about doing these things in those videos, but I'm going to specifically highlight this stuff so that, and take it slow so that you can understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing, okay? In perspective is really, really important for a lot of different reasons, and I'm going to show you why right now. So I have a lineup of all my characters here. This is the characters that I tend to use in my comic. Now, it's really, really, really important to have a lineup for me in order for this to work. The reason is because that way I could see how tall everybody is to each other. Not every single human being is as tall as every other human being. There is no generic height, but you do need at least a standard. So I have her as the standard, and then she's taller, she's shorter, and she's like a little bit shorter, but not by much. So each one of these women have different heights, and this is important. And I need to make sure to line them up so I know how tall each one is. This is going to become very important later. Okay, so I'm gonna so that first things first, let's come up with an idea for a picture of these characters in perspective. Now I have zero idea right now what I'm gonna do. So how do I approach this? Usually I'm thinking about spatial relationships. If I'm going to break up the blank page here, what I want to do is something that is foreground, middle ground, background. Something that is bigger, smaller, and then smallest. There's not going to be necessarily a background. I'm not sure. So because that will take even longer. But I want to draw characters, and I don't want to draw them full-bodied because it doesn't take up enough space. It doesn't fill up the space. So what I want to do is I want to fill up all this space. So let's say that these characters are kind of it's selfie, like they're gonna do a selfie. So one character is here, and she is in the foreground. And she's reaching off screen she's got the she's the one that's and she's smiling. So notice I'm just, this is just scribbles and just idea, right? So she's there and she's doing that, yay. And then we have another character back here. I'm only going to draw 3 out of the 4. This is probably Kelsey over here with her big hair. And then Aria right here with her big hair. And she's a bit of a grump. Maybe she's crossing her hands. And Kelsey, she's really happy. She's a very spunky. She's very spunky. And maybe she's way, way, way too in the way here. So I'm going to move her over a bit. She needs to be further back. She really kind of doesn't want to be in the picture. Whoops. Okay. I think that's it. I think that's what I want. I kind of want to move everybody up a bit, even if her head's a little cut off here. Okay, so that's the picture that I want to draw, right? And now I got to put it in perspective. Is this what I want? See, so part of the problem here is whatever I draw is going to have a high horizon line. And that's fine. Usually selfies have high horizon lines. But it's trickier if the horizon line is lower. So she's holding the selfie like this, but what if she was holding it down below like this? So, and that's actually going to be much more dynamic. So I think that's what I want. So that's kind of what I kind of don't want. This is too high a perspective. So how do I know this is too high a perspective? It's one of those things where their heads kind of line up a little bit. In general, they're a little bit lined up, which means that the phone, the camera, is going to be around here in this area, this area here. That's how I know. When something lines up with something, and that's the thing, when something here, they line up wherever the body parts line up, that's where you know that where the camera is. So this might be too high a perspective, and it's a little boring. But part of the perspective here already exists, and it exists in that one character is bigger, one character is a little bit smaller than this character, and then there's one character that's even smaller. So just shape sizes creates the illusion of depth. So that's one perspective tip. Without a single perspective rule, horizon line, vanishing point, all that stuff, size relationship, overlapping shapes, one on top of the other, already creates depth, already creates perspective. All right, but I do not want a high horizon line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this same thing, head looking down like this. So this is one reason why I drew this super loose, is because if I get too precious, I don't want to. I'm going to not want to start over. Okay, so now I see, now I'm doing this to give myself the idea of we're looking up. So this is still the same. Her head is looking down, but her body is tilted all the way up like this. And now what happens is that when the camera is down lower, characters don't line up like that unless she's standing on a rock, which she can be doing. She's probably going to be lower in the shot. So now I'm going to draw Kelsey, and she's looking down like this, and she's kind of bent a little bit like this, and then she's got her giant hair. But even her hips need to be looking at like there has to be some kind of perspective happening here. So she's happy. She's doing her thing. Yay. And then finally she's not going to be like that. She's going to be down here. Maybe. This is where the perspective and then this is, we're looking up at her. She's a grump. Maybe she's too low. Okay, maybe there's a tree branch or something up here. Another tree branch here. Maybe there's some bushes. Just shapes, just to fill out the space. So that's better. I like that more. That gives me more perspective than that. We have this kind of whoosh shape there. I like it. Okay. So that's where we begin. You start with a sketch. You start playing around. I had no idea what I was going to do. I start playing around with general shapes. And now I'm going to draw the perspective on these characters. Now, I don't know how much of this is correct and how much of this is not working. She already seems like she's a little bit too high. So we'll see. Okay, so I have this lineup, and the lineup is very important. I pulled up the lineup of the characters here, and now I can kind of now I have this kind of size reference. So I know that these characters have specific places where they tend to line up. So let me turn this blue so it doesn't get in the way. First character that I need to worry about is her. Okay, so first let me get these characters in the correct size relationship. So I'm going to move. So this is what I tend to do. I tend to have my characters in these kind of model sheet kind of way. And actually, I'm going to take this and I'm going to shrink her to the right side. Oops. Let me lock this layer so it doesn't get in the way. I'm going to lock all these layers except for the one I need. So I want to start off with the correct sizes of all these ladies. Okay, and the reason for starting off with the right sizes is so I could take all of them and multiply. Let me duplicate this. Let me rasterize all of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in their correct order. Kelsey's over here. Aria's in the middle. Isabella's on the right. Increase the size. I mean, now here's my rough. Now I'm going to increase their sizes. Now here's when it gets tricky. So here we go. I should save it just in case. Okay, saved. Now I'm gonna increase all their sizes. So that they match Kelsey here. This might be too big and I may need to shrink them a little bit, but that's the first thing I want to do is check. So just let's see. That's about right. I gotta bring her in here. And then I gotta bring her in here. Okay. So, because we have all three of them, we have to find the horizon line. So where in this drawing, where in this lineup, or in our rough, would a horizon line cross? What I mean is, because we have everything lined up, we're looking for landmarks on the character where if I was to draw a line across this lineup, it would cross. So let's say like the pit of the neck, if I was to draw a line, would cross basically Kelsey's eye over here, right? So we're looking for something like that. And I'm not sure if I'm going to find it, but maybe I will. So we have her chest crosses her, the bottom of her chest crosses near her upper chest. Let's see. So that's not right. We have the bottom of her breasts here crossing her crotch, which is not right. The bottom of her the pit of the neck, crosses Kelsey's eyes. That's closer. The chin, her chin crosses Kelsey's hair. Not quite. The top of her hair crosses her brows. So here's her brows, top of the hair. Oh, that's closer. So somewhere around the nose, maybe. The nose crosses top of her head. Her nose, top of her head. Like that's close. That's about right. So I'm going to flop this. This drawing, you can't see me flop it. I'm sorry. I just flopped it. Her nose and her head line up. And so does it does in my rough too. So that means that the horizon line might be there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line right across. And that is my horizon line. Then I'm going to mark it just to make it easy on myself. Here and here. So Kelsey has a blue line there, and Arya has a blue line. And so no matter how small she gets, that blue line needs to be right on the horizon line. So we've got size relationship, and now we have I mean size. One character is bigger. One character is this size. This character is bigger here. She's this size, and now and then in order to get her to be correctly proportioned, because if in my scribble I didn't proportion her correctly. What we did was we found a place wherever it was in the lineup where the character's body parts best lined up naturally. So the bottom of her nose to the top of her head, like we were just checking to see eyebrow lines up, but when we did it across like that, they didn't. So we're looking for where they actually line up naturally, and wherever that happens, that's where the horizon line actually is. That means that the horizon line is a little bit low. The character, the horizon line is higher than I wanted it to be. Sadly, it's still high. So we'll live with it. Okay. That means that leaves Arya. And Arya also needs a little mark. And then she, in perspective, character furthest back from us, will actually be here like this. So she's not as far down as I expected. So the question is, do I want this? Is this what I wanted? Was this the intent? Well, it wasn't. And it's kind of not what I want. This is exactly what I had before, right? Like, it's basically this. And I wanted something a little bit lower. So that's not working out the way I planned. So let's try to figure out a different thing. Okay, let's try to lower the horizon line. Let's do the horizon line down first. So I still want something like this. So we have to rework this. So I'm going to do this again. Rasterize all of these all at once. Move these a little bit closer together. And once again, we want something that looks kind of like this. So notice that this is all. It takes a little doing, but this is all perspective stuff because I'm composing this. Okay, so this is about the same. Just in case I mess up, I'm going to make a copy of this version. And I was using the lineup as a guide, but it occurred to me as I was doing it that because I overlapped, I did this with the characters and I have them basically at the same size. I don't really have to do the lineup the way I was doing it. I don't have to like go what goes in here and then compare it. they're all basically set up this way already. So, okay, so we still have this. That's the size. That's where we want it. This time around, I'm going to create a horizon line first. And so here's the horizon line. And now I am going to try to line up these characters to this horizon line that is low. And that's going to be easier because I already created the horizon line. Oh, and I said that I was going to duplicate this in case I mess up, so there we go. Okay. So this time I am going to do this it'll be a little bit easier. Kelsey will have her line. I'll draw a blue line here. Aria will have a blue line here. Now let me take Kelsey and reduce her by a lot. Oh, I forgot to flip her. There we go. Now she's flipped and shrunk. So where does she end up? That's really low. And Arya is going to be even lower still. That's too low. So let us raise the horizon line a little bit. And let's do this again. Here's this line for her. And this line for Aria. And so notice how important the horizon line is. Like I don't have any vanishing points or anything on this horizon line just yet, but just on its own without that, it's coming pretty handy. That's a little better. And she's taller, so let's see where she ends up. I don't want to do a horizon line any higher than this because the entire point was to have a low horizon line. So a little taller, or a little bigger, I should say. Okay, so right now all of this is working in my favor. The perspective is all working in my favor. Okay, so notice how this is lined up with the horizon line like this, right? Okay, so everything is working in spatially correctly now. We have a low horizon line. We have the characters actually lined up in space proportionally correct to each other because they all lined up to the horizon line. So they're all hanging on the horizon line. And again, the reason why all this works is that wherever the horizon line crosses the characters, where on the main character, it should cross on all the other characters as well, right? I just showed you that. I lined up all the characters correctly. I put a horizon line in there. The horizon line being right here means that it's going to cross the characters wherever it is that it crosses them. And then when you shrink them down, it doesn't deviate. If they're standing on a completely flat plane, like if it's just completely flat, like and there is no hill, or they're not standing on a box, or on a rock, or anything like that, that's going to give them a step up, it'll still cross them on the same horizon line. That is accurate perspective. Now, however, in my composition, because she's shorter than Arya, I could have flopped them in position so that she's over here. And what I like is this kind of down thing. And right now, these two characters are a little bit the same, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say that that Kelsey is standing on a tree root, or on a slightly or on a hill a little bit, and I'm gonna break this rule, and I'm gonna have her standing on a root or on a rock. Now I get this shape that I wanted. Ta-da! And I have the perspective. Now, when I draw the characters from this point on, now I'm aware of the fact that this is the eye line. This is where the camera is. Okay? Anything below this, we're looking down. Anything above this, we're looking up. So now here comes the part with the perspective part, right? So first we have to solve the composition, the spacing, the placing of the characters. These two characters are accurate to their size relationship. She is standing on a soapbox in order to make the composition work. This is something that happens in movies all the time, where a character wouldn't look right, so they have the actor stand on a box or something like that just to place the perspective and make it look a little bit nicer. So this is a cheat. Like I said, she's standing on a tree. She happens to be standing on a tree root to be able to be in the shot, because it's a selfie. So she really wants to be in it. So she jumped on something, and she's so there. You can make an argument. You could cheat that, right? Okay. Now at this point, I tend to make a grid. If it's going to be an indoor drawing, it's going to be even more important to have the grid, because you're inside a room. In this case, it's going to be a wilderness environment. I said that this is a tree root. This is trees. So it's not as important, but it is still important, and it's very, very important that this horizon line is drawn correctly for the characters in space. Okay, so I'm not going to be drawing something super tight at this point. What I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be drawing the general perspective of the characters in space, so that you could understand how to approach once you have a horizon line, once you've placed everything spatially where it's supposed to be. And then you have the characters where you want them to be in the right proportions. Then you have to draw the characters solid within this picture plane. And it's extremely, extremely helpful to have a grid. I tend to do this for work stuff all the time. So I'm gonna. This program happens to have a perspective ruler. Actually, the program that I use for storyboarding also has a perspective ruler, so I tend to use that all the time. Otherwise, you're going to have to do it manually, which is not a big deal. But so we already have the horizon line that we put in. So we just move this down to where our horizon line is. Boom, ta-da, simple. And then we want to put the vanishing points where we want them to be. Ideally, you want one to be about yay, and then the other one you want to be about yay, really far away. So it's a little bit offset. One is more extreme than the other, so that you get this line. This line's a little bit less steep, and then one is kind of really steep. That's kind of that's what we're going for. And so you could see that this line here is, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Boom, boom, boom. No, where's my perspective ruler layer? Here it is. Yeah, so like that. This one I want it to be a little bit steeper, so come in here like that. Just move this down so we can see these. So this is kind of, I think I could make this closer. See how this vanishing point is getting closer? Okay, so if I was to draw, which I tend to do, if I was to draw the, let me make this all layers. Yeah, it'll influence all the layers I draw on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a grid. First, I'm going to draw this line here so I can see the perspective. Oops. No. There. And then and then the other side. That's really helpful. Am I following the correct? There. Okay. Now I'm going to turn off the perspective ruler. I'm going to reduce this even more. And here's the rough. Okay. So remember, this is the rough. Let me take this off of this. Let me make these blue and reduce them so that I can, and then I'm going to take this and I'm going to reduce this a little bit. Okay. So we have a bit of a mess. So what we've got here is a grid which shows us the perspective. I have this rough of the general poses that I want to put these characters in. And now I have the size relationship the way that I have them. So these are the proportions that I'm going to be using for these characters. And so I got to stick generally to these size, shapes, and proportions. So beginning with her, maybe I should, just for clarity's sake, I need to change the color of the Actually, I'm going to change the color of my drawing line to this. Yeah, so now it's a little bit of a brown. All right. Using, and I'm being rough again, because this step of getting the character to be the right size relationship, to have the right proportions, is a process all of its own. So we have the horizon line comes across like that. So we know that we're looking up at her chest here, like so. Cross here, do that. And then this here means that we're looking slightly down on her breasts here. But we're looking up from shoulder, but her head is tilted down to us. Okay, so I could turn her off now, so she's less in the way. So this is much more the right proportion. Second, I'll work on Kelsey. Her head is like so. Her hair is like so. Her torso is way longer than I made it. Her hips are over here. Her pecs are here. Her arms are longer. Shoulders. Okay, so again, she's bending forward, but the horizon line is going this way, so I might as well use the horizon line. The lines of the horizon line mean that her chest will more likely follow this horizon line. It's helpful. So we're using her almost as as if she's a robot, and parts of her body are actually literally following the direction of the horizon line. Even though she's bending forward, this is still following this pink horizon line. So this is lower. And then this is higher. So this is this kind of thing is happening with Kelsey. It just makes it so that the perspective on these characters are working. Okay, so that's that. Let's turn her model sheet off. And finally, Aria here. And so this, again, this is sort of what's going on. We have this kind of boxy shape here. So there is some perspective that this is helping us out with. But I need to just really quickly place Aria's proportions here. She's leaning back. And so I'm kind of drawing her a little bit more blocky here, just so that you can see that the perspective helps, the perspective grid helps give her some. Here's the horizon line that's right across her chest here. The horizon, the perspective gives us some help with the perspective of these characters. The detail being that this, we're looking down at her pants here instead of up. So this is like my second pass for the gesture. The first one was a quick rough. This is a much closer to proportioned characters. Because I was using a model sheet, I could now turn off this rough, wherever it is. There it is. No, I can't, because I need the trees. Okay, so now let's put in some trees. And we have some indication here. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that these trees, this is the side plane of the tree, this is the underside of the tree, and then we have, here's maybe a tree branch comes through, and it follows this perspective. We're looking up at the tree branch. The tree branches are going up and away from us like this. This is the underside of the tree. So we want the tree to follow the grid. And we know that these branches are going away and up. This is just going to be a shape here. But even this shape, maybe there's a corner here. So we'll almost make it blocky. Down here, we know that there's maybe some shrubs. But then even the shrubs should have some kind of space or something. There should be a spatial relationship here. The horizon lines right here, the horizon line, the camera, that means that this is all, because it's also called the horizon line, this is where the ground plane actually is. That means that we're gonna see the like wherever this is crossing, this is chest high. There would be, if there was a tree, it would be down here. It would be here, and it would be way up here. So the horizon line is, the camera's down here. So any tree or bush or background element can't be like this. You can't see the top of the tree here on the bottom. It needs to be higher. If this character was to walk in space, back here, like if we were to shrink her, whatever background detail we have has to be compatible with that. So you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you that using Aria's model sheet. I'm just gonna duplicate it. I'm going to turn this on again. I'm going to reduce her even more. See, there's that little line there that tells me where the horizon line is for her. And I'm going to keep shrinking her. She was to walk way back into this background. This green line is the horizon line, and it would still line up with that little, where is it? There, that little blue line that I drew. So let's say that she's this tiny. This little blue line still lines up with this green horizon line. And that's how tall she'd be if she was back there, which means that any detail that I put back here in the environment, let me take off this rough here. Needs to take into account that it has to be higher than this. So like if there was a tree, it would be bigger than her, like here. If there was a mountain, it would be here, like that. Bushes would be like this. Trees would be much higher, like so. Let's say that these are pines. So this is, the trees would be much higher. So it's helpful to see a character back there so that you can get these background elements working. And now I can turn the grid off. And so I could now separate everything. So this is different than this, which is different than this. So now we can see all the different elements here. And so the horizon line comes across here. We had the grid, which was here, which helps with the perspective. Now we know that anything that we're looking up at these tree branches, we're looking up at all this stuff, we're looking down at all this ground plane here. We shrunk an area so we could check to see if like trees and bushes and how tall things are in the background, mountains, things like that, so that we're not drawing them in the wrong place. Because we could have drawn them down here and it wouldn't have been fine unless there was a cliff or something. But if this is all kind of flat ground plane, then everything else is just kind of, we need to have have it lined up to a character here. So we have this tiny little character here, so we can see how tall everything is in the background, so we can make everything in its proper perspective. So even if it's just wilderness and you're not actually doing an actual building or something like that, the perspective is very, very important. I think so. That's my tips. That's how you would draw characters in perspective. At this point, I'm gonna move this over because I think I don't like that overlapping there. So those are my tips. Like, see, her chest is moving in perspective like that. Her body is moving in perspective to the horizon line, to the vanishing points here. It's all kind of pointing over here. It's also kind of pointing to her. She's pointing to her, even though it's like her body's kind of going to the horizon line, to the vanishing points here. Let me see, where are they? So I could. So Yeah, so she's pointing like her body shapes are pointing to the to the grid and into the foreground, the background, that sort of thing. And then it's all kind of pointing to her anyway. So and there's a tangent here which I'll have to fix if I want to ever finish this drawing. But that's the way I would approach something like this. I at this point, what I would do is I would take this. What color is this originally? Oh, okay. And then I would start really finessing the character models and really solidifying the designs. And drawing these more in structurally sound, giving them dimension and solidity and stuff like that. And maybe I don't want her hands to be mirror images. This is a problem here. Why did I say it was a problem? Because I didn't want what is called twinning. People don't tend to be... It looks unnatural when people are the right and left side of a person is doing an identical thing in an identical way, as if it's just a mirror. It's fine for icons, because that's kind of what it's all about. But when you're trying to do something a little bit more naturalistic, it's actually not okay to be mirror imaging. And actually, I don't like that either. That doesn't look good to me. So I would just keep playing with this stuff. But this is that's it. This is the what I wanted to say is when you're working with anything in perspective and working with characters in perspective, especially with a group of characters in perspective, what you want to do is get the horizon line working. Put a horizon line in there. That perspective tool. By tool, I just mean the horizon line itself, not the grid tool of the drawing program, but the horizon line. Just drawing a green line, this little green line. That is such a helpful tool to help you know where the camera is, so that you can place the figures in space in a correct way. Especially if you have a lineup like this, where this is the ultimate helpful thing, where everything, like I said, like the horizon line needs to cross the characters in the same spot, unless of course you're going to cheat like I did with her. I put her down here originally, and then I say that she's standing on a root, and then she could be a little bit higher, and then you can cheat that way. But you at least went through the process of getting her in the correct size, so that things weren't so that you're not faking the size relationships. And I think I need to work on her pose way more. This is not helping. So if I was to take this drawing to completion, it would take a lot longer, because now that I have all the characters placed generally in the way that I want them to, the getting the characters on model, making them look solid, a good well drawn pose, that would take me a little bit longer to do because it's a process, for me at least. Some other people could just kind of crank it out, but for me, it would take a long time, uh, because I don't draw these characters enough so that I'm super comfortable drawing them correctly every time. I would need to, and again with her, um, I'm having trouble with this pose. I just don't like it. I don't like what I'm doing. I would have to. See, I'm trying to figure out, do I even want both hands now? It's not good either. It's terrible. Okay, well, I better stop because this is. I'm doing an awful lot for a drawing that I'm probably never gonna finish, or it was just an example drawing. But it's bugging me. Okay, so anyway, I'll stop. Hopefully that's helpful. Any follow-up questions, please let me know, and make sure to look at all those other videos on perspective that I have linked onto the bottom of this video, and I will talk to you next time. All right, bye. Darn this pose.